Hello and welcome to the News at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, the chair of the Sheku Bayoh inquiry says he'll stay in post despite calls for him to step aside. We'll hear from a legal expert. Also tonight, with antisocial behaviour on Scotland's buses rising, should bus passes be suspended for persistent offenders? And we'll have all the sport too with Paul. What's coming up tonight, Paul?
Can Dundee United and Hibs join Rangers, Celtic and Aberdeen in European playoffs? We'll hear from both sides ahead of tomorrow night's Conference League qualifiers.
And after Donald Trump comes JD Vance. The Vice President has arrived in Scotland for a holiday. Hi, I'm Laura McKeever. Welcome to the News at 7. The chair of the long-running inquiry looking into the death of Kirkcaldy man Sheku Bayoh has announced he will not step down, despite calls from the Scottish Police Federation to do so. An application had been made to remove Lord Bracadale from the post after he met the family of Mr Bayoh on 5 occasions. Mr Bayoh died after being restrained by 6 police officers in Fife in 2015. Lawyers for both parties have aired their views.
The chair, Lord Bracadale, has done nothing wrong. He is a judge with over 50 years legal experience, respected for his impartiality and integrity. It comes as no surprise that both the Police Federation and Solicitor General failed to grasp that the inquiry's duty under the Human Rights Act is to conduct a thorough investigation into the death of Sheku Bayoh, having at its inquiry's heart the Bayoh family.
The test is, would an independent, well-informed observer think in the circumstances there was apparent bias? And our view is that is the case.
Well, let's speak to Dr Nick McCarroll, who's a legal expert at Glasgow Caledonian University. Nick, good evening to you. Thank you for coming in. How unusual is this then, controversy around the chair of an inquiry?
Well, it's quite unusual in an inquiry, and at this stage in an inquiry, after years of hearings, the hearings began in 2020, so 5 years of hearings. It's not unusual for judges to be challenged for being biased. In a small legal community like Scotland, relatively, you do get quite a few cases where people think a judge has an interest in a case and they have to remove themselves from it. But in a public inquiry where there's so many issues at stake, it's unusual at this stage in an inquiry for somebody to raise questions of bias about the chair of the inquiry.
So does it end here, or does the Scottish Police Federation have anywhere else to go to
Yes,
take this?
The Scottish Police Federation, I think, are on record as saying that they may take a judicial review, which we've heard a lot of in recent years. It's using the courts in Scotland, the Court of Session, to review the decision that an authority makes. That in this case, to review the 100-page decision which the judge issued today about why he was not biased in this case. They would want to judicially review that decision in Edinburgh. That will cause a lot of delay to the inquiry if it goes ahead, because as well as a judicial review, that can be appealed to several other courts above it, which could take months, even a year delay if it went that far to the findings of the public inquiry, which would be a big delay on this very important issue which the public inquiry was called for.
OK, so will it continue in the meantime then, or, you know, until any possible appeal emerges?
Well, I think the Police Federation's case is that they don't think they're getting a fair hearing. They think that there's an appearance of apparent bias. That's to say, they're not saying the judge is actually biased, but they say the appearance of it because he's met with the families. Now, Lord Bracadale has a very explicit and detailed judgment why that's not the case in his view, but they could, I think the Police Federation won't participate in this until this issue is resolved. OK.
Nick, thank you for coming in and explaining more. Next tonight, repeat offenders of vandalism and antisocial behaviour on Scotland's buses could have their free passes removed or be banned completely under new proposals being considered by the Scottish Parliament. This CCTV footage from Lothian buses shows vandals slashing seats on a bus. Our reporter Maura Kinnebra has been hearing from some young people about their experiences using buses.
A guy got jumped on the bus. He didn't die, but he was flashed a knife and he was beaten like really bad.
There's like actually people like fighting each other, and it's just like I'm just trying to like get home, and these people are drunk and probably high as well.
One time me and my friend went on the bus and she just said out loud, "Where should we sit?" And a random stranger gestured to his lap and he's like, "You can sit here."
Well, Greg Mackay is from the UK Bus User Group, who have compliance officers on buses every day. I asked him why concession cards can't just easily be removed from offenders.
So the Scottish Government right now, with Transport Scotland, actually has a work stream that's looking into this in a lot more detail. So with the under 22 cards, certainly the under 16 ones are linked to the Young Scot card. So it's not quite as straightforward as it would be with a 60+ concession card because of that Young Scot element. So the Scottish Government, as I said, has a work stream right now with various stakeholders from the bus industry, ourselves included in that, CPT Scotland, etc., and exploring ways in which safeguards can be built into the scheme in order to, penalise repeat offenders that do cause problems on buses that have been proven to cause issues, and therefore sanctions can be placed on those cards. But as I say, there's a legislative process that has to go through because of the way in which the under 22 scheme was brought into effect in Scotland.
Right,
so
but would you support it in principle, Greg? Yes,
well, this process already applies to the 60+ concession card holders, so it really should be available for under 22s as well. So especially for offenders that have been proven to cause issues on buses, because they're trying to almost have a sort of terms and conditions of carriage, just in the same way that the bus operators have that available for all passengers as conditions of carriage. And under 22s concession cards must also abide by those conditions of carriage.
Generally, are you happy then with the way that the concession card system is working, the way that the whole system is working just now in terms of monitoring behaviour, which is something that you're partly responsible for? Do you think that there could be any improvements or changes?
I think in terms of the sort of repercussions have to be made available and also make new card holders, when they come into the scheme, to make them aware that, of the sort of rules of having such a card and what that allows them to do in terms of how they behave on public transport as a whole, not just necessarily on buses. So in terms of the scheme, obviously, it has been transformational in terms of allowing young people to access education, employment, etc., with having a bus pass that allows them free point of use travel, and that's across Scotland. I mean, what a great scheme. I'm sure England and Wales are also kind of looking at this in a similar way. So that just says how much of a transformational thing the under 22 scheme actually is.
Greg, thank you so much for your time on News at 7. Good to hear from you.
Thank you very much.
Well, Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland got some views on this earlier. Dennis in Aberdeen, first of all, saying, I use my bus card regularly to travel into Aberdeen City. Apart from some very bad language and arguments about too many pushchairs, there's never any serious trouble on the buses. And Zoe says antisocial behaviour by any age group should be prosecuted where possible, rather than remove the free pass from responsible young people. And bus drivers, she says, need the support of the police. It'll be good to get your thoughts on that or anything else that you hear this evening. You can get in touch with us if you like. Our email address is there for you on the screen now, news7@bbc.co.uk. That's news7@bbc.co.uk. And thank you so much, as always, for joining us in tonight's News at 7. More to come in the programme, including the American Vice President JD Vance has arrived in Scotland to continue his holiday in the UK.
It's been a scorcher right across Scotland, but now warnings from the Met Office of thundery showers tonight and tomorrow. I'll have a full forecast later in the programme.
Now, a venue in Edinburgh has said it would never have let Deputy First Minister Kate Forbes speak at an event if they'd known she was invited. The Summer Hall venue, which was hosting a series of political interviews led by the Herald newspaper, said it was an oversight that Ms Forbes took part. Earlier, our political correspondent David Wallace-Lockhart explained more.
Well, last week, Kate Forbes did an event with the Herald newspaper. It was a sit-down, wide-ranging interview in front of an audience, part of the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. This was in Summerhall, which is a venue with a theatre space. It's also got studio space that artists use. And my understanding is there was a backlash amongst the artist community there who use the venue and don't like Kate Forbes' views on gender. There was, of course, a period where gender legislation to make it easier for people to change their gender was going through Holyrood. Kate Forbes is someone who voted against that. She has expressed other socially conservative views in the past as well. This was first reported by the Scottish Daily Mail, but the Summerhall has released a statement saying that they didn't know who the politicians at the event were going to be. They're going to look at how this oversight, in their words, happened, and that their main concern is the safety and well-being of artists and people they work with. Now, Kate Forbes has said that attempts to cancel people undermine democracy, and her cabinet colleague Shona Robison, who herself used to be Deputy First Minister, as Kate Forbes is now, has jumped to her defence.
I don't agree with that. I think Kate Forbes is the Deputy First Minister. I also think that she should be able to go to venues and give her views, and I don't agree. I think that is a decision that is unwise and unnecessary.
And David, gender does seem to be a big issue still in politics and beyond.
Yeah, there was a very controversial, heated time when legislation was going through Holyrood, legislation that ultimately got blocked by the UK government, legislation that John Swinney said he has no plans to bring back at the moment. Yet this is such a live and sometimes ill-tempered issue in Scottish public life. And this has ended up in a situation where a venue which receives quite a lot of public money, is saying that the Deputy First Minister's views are so unpalatable that they won't have her at an event in the building. Kate Forbes seems to have concern about what this kind of situation means for freedom of speech. But as I understand it, the position at Summerhall seems to be that they wouldn't host another event with her in the future.
OK, David, thank you for that. Now, the former SNP politician and Scottish Parliament presiding officer, Sir George Reid, has died at the age of 86. He had a long career as a journalist and worked with the Red Cross for 12 years, returning to politics in 1995. He was knighted in 2012. First Minister John Swinney paid this tribute to Sir George.
I'm desperately saddened to hear of the death of George Reid. He has been a towering figure in Scottish politics for 5 decades, an incredibly distinguished presiding officer of the Scottish Parliament, and of course one of the key voices in the 1970s who articulated the case for independence that had a persuasive effect on me and resulted in me joining the Scottish National Party. So George has been an individual of incredible significance in Scotland. His domestic contribution to Scotland has been seminal, and his international contribution on the issue of aid to countries facing challenge and hardship has been well documented. So the loss of George Reid is a significant blow to Scottish politics and to Scottish life, which he enhanced enormously by his devoted contribution.
John Swinney there paying tribute to Sir George Reid, who's died at the age of 86. Time now to get a roundup of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland. And the latest annual government expenditure and revenue Scotland figures, or GERS, show the public spending deficit has increased. North Sea oil and gas revenue fell for the second year in a row. A man in Glasgow has been sentenced to 10 years in prison after he tried to kill a toddler by stepping onto the path of a moving train. The child's made a full recovery. And the man who founded Shetland Spaceport, Frank Strang, has died at the age of 67. He bought a former RAF base on Unst, and it became the launch pad for rockets carrying satellites into space. And for more information on all of these stories, you can scan the QR code. It's there for you on the screen now. It'll take you to the BBC Scotland News app, where there's more for you, including the Edinburgh Fringe Show, putting accessibility centre stage. Next tonight, a new ferry berth at Mallaig is set to increase capacity at the port and provide better resilience for services to the islands. Karen Elder sent this report.
The town of Mallaig is situated on what's known as the road to the Isles, so it's of no surprise then that it's a very busy ferry port. Not only that, it's also a thriving aquaculture hub. There are so many vessels in and out of the harbour here, but not so many berthing options, something that will hopefully change as a result of the Scottish Government funding announced today.
but when you're trying to fit the aquaculture needs and the industry needs along with what our lifeline ferry service is, you need to accommodate both. So having that 50-metre new overnight berthing will help, particularly on the timetable, but also to have other boats and vessels that will work as resilience vessels in the future to be able to berth here too.
Mallaig Harbour authorities say that this is the first step in a programme of improvements to ferry infrastructure here. The Scottish Government hopes that this will help support ferry services in the area in the years to come. The ferry service to the Small Isles, for example, where the Cabinet Secretary headed to the port of Canna, which has also received funding. Karen Elder, reporting Scotland in Mallaig.
Still to come, we have a weather forecast with Gillian, and we also assess the current wildfire risk in Scotland too. First though, it's sport with Paul.
Thank you, Laura. Hello there. It's a big week of European football for Scottish clubs. Rangers have joined Celtic in the Champions League playoff round, and tomorrow it's the turn of Hibernian and Dundee United to try and secure European progression. More on those games in a moment, but first, it's been one of the transfer sagas of the summer, but Lennon Miller has finally sealed his move to Italian side Udinese, signing a 5-year multi-million-pound deal with the Serie A side. Well, Miller was a bit busy to speak to us today, but we did manage to track down his dad, former Scotland international Lee, at Heathrow Airport on his way back from Italy.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind, bit of a roller coaster ride, but delighted to get the deal done, and gutted he's leaving us, but bursting with pride at the same time as a family. Yeah, it's been a carefully thought out process over the last 6, 7, 8 months, and Udinese's always been there champing the bit to do things properly, and they've done that, and it's been a huge decision for Lennon to make, and us as a family as well, because we're quite a close family. So no, it's been great, it's been exciting times, and I look forward to the future.
Just tell me about that process you're describing then, because it's been no secret that a lot of clubs have been interested in trying to sign Lennon, given these performances at Motherwell and his inclusion in the national team. So why has Lennon settled on Udinese?
Yeah, there's always been a story about Lennon, and people are probably getting fed up of it in the press, to be honest. There was a lot of interest. I don't want to go into details and which clubs. But we sat down as a family and we always spoke about things, and ultimately it's Lennon's decision at the end of the day. I can guide him, or his family can guide him as much as we can, but if he wanted to take that next step and he feels Udinese is the perfect club to do that, he feels he's got an opportunity to play there. It's in a world-class league in Serie A, go and show everybody what he can do over there against some quality sides. And no, they've got a track record for developing players and moving them on for bigger money again. And this is a carefully thought out steps. It's always been a plan in place for Lennon, playing games at Motherwell, racking up a number amount of games and first team opportunities. And Motherwell's gave him that, and we need to be very thankful for that. The managers over the years that have given him an opportunity, and the fans have been great with him. The club's been great for Lennon, Lennon's been great for the club, so it's been perfectly done so far. Long may that continue.
Just finally, he's good enough to earn a move to Serie A. What can he do in his career? Where will Lennon Miller be in the next 5 years?
That's down to Lennon. He's willing to work hard. He has done so far, and he's very modest. He doesn't get too carried away with things, doesn't too high, too low. So no, he wants to play at the very top. He's obviously had his couple of caps so far. He wants to stay in the national team and play as many games for Udinese as possible and help them do what they need to do in Serie A. So no, the sky's the limit, but we're not getting carried away. He's not getting carried away. He just wants to play football. He's just a boy that always wants to play football and play with a smile on his face.
Now to Conference League action, and Hibernian boss David Gray says his side will go out to win the second leg of their third round qualifying tie against Partizan, despite taking a 2-0 aggregate lead into the game. Hibs, who squandered a 2-goal advantage against Kilmarnock at the weekend, go into tomorrow's match at Easter Road after a hugely impressive display in Belgrade last week. However, Gray says he expects a fast start from the visitors and has urged his side to take a positive approach.
Very quick to remind the players it's only half time in the tie, sorry. So, and you can't go into any game not trying to win it. I think that's always a message for me. So it's a clean slate, it's 0-0, and you go and try and put a game plan together to try and go and win the home game as well, which obviously gets you through to the next stage, and you need to do whatever you possibly can to try and ensure we're in the next round. We're a young side that's really energetic with a lot of quality, and we expect it to be exactly the same for the first minute. With the onus on they have to come after us with them being obviously 2-0 down in aggregate. So the game plan is to try and win the game on the night though.
Staying with the Conference League, and Dundee United boss Jim Goodwin says his side has the firepower to get past Rapid Vienna at Tannadice, while Hibs take a lead into their second leg. United's tie is delicately balanced after they secured a credible 2-2 draw in Austria last week. But while Goodwin accepts the threat posed by the visitors, he insists his team are capable of progressing to the playoff round.
It would be brilliant if we were able to progress. You know, we're expecting a really difficult game. Rapid Vienna had a really good result themselves against Sturm Graz at the weekend. So, you know, they'll no doubt take, you know, a lot of confidence from that. You know, we felt that we caused them a few problems at the back ourselves with the quality that we have going forward. So I hope it makes for a really entertaining game. I hope it's an exciting one for the fans to watch, and fingers crossed we can shade it.
There's plenty more Conference League preview reading on our website, where there's also a nice analysis piece on the background and rise of Lennon Miller. And if you don't know about him already, he is definitely one to watch. Do you fancy a move to the northeast of Italy,
I
Laura?
would absolutely
lovely,
take a transfer to North Italy, Paul, if that's the suggestion. Thank you. Cheers. Right, hot on the heels of his boss Donald Trump, the American Vice President JD Vance has arrived in Scotland for a holiday. He's already hung out with the Foreign Secretary David Lammy in the Cotswolds, and now he's seeking out his Ulster Scots roots in Ayrshire. Well, our Home Affairs correspondent David Cowan is at Prestwick Airport for us this evening. So Dave, what are the security arrangements like there?
Pretty high, a lot of police helicopters around. When Air Force 2 landed. Donald Trump as president is always in Air Force 1. When you're vice president, it's Air Force 2. And the security generally won't be as high as it was when Donald Trump was here, but it still will be a major undertaking for Police Scotland. When Trump was here, over 6,000 Police Scotland officers were on duty, backed up by another 1,000 from other forces under mutual aid arrangements. He was at his course at Turnberry and at Many as well. He met Sir Keir Starmer, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and others. So that was a huge undertaking. The bill running into many millions of pounds. We don't know who's going to pay that yet. This won't be as big, but it will be similar. It will run into millions of pounds as well, and it will involve hundreds and hundreds of police officers.
Yeah, indeed. But do we know any more about what the Vice President will actually be doing while he's here?
No, it's a simple answer to that. It's a private family holiday, we were told, but when he was down south in England, he did meet the UK Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, and others. He also visited an RAF base today. So you'd imagine there might be some work involved at some stage. He's going to stay very close to Trump Turnberry. He's a golfer. You'd imagine a round at his boss's golf course could be on the cards. And as you said, he describes himself as a Scots-Irish hillbilly at heart, so perhaps he might do what a lot of Americans do when they're here and seek out his family roots. He's going to be staying at the Cornell estate near Kilmarnock. It describes itself as home to a stunning 14th century tower and historic and luxurious mansion house hidden within beautiful prize-winning gardens with 2,000 acres of parkland. So that place has had some VIP visitors in the past. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie rented it out when Brad Pitt was filming a zombie film in Glasgow a few years ago.
OK, Dave, live for us tonight at Prestwick Airport. Thank you. Now, a wildfire warning covering most of Scotland has been issued for the 10th time this year. Scottish Fire and Rescue Service says naked flames should not be used outdoors during a period of very high risk of wildfire, which came into force today for 7 days. Now, one part of Scotland that's hoping to be spared further fires is the Cairngorms National Park, whose borders were ravaged 6 weeks ago during a similar dry spell. Earlier, I asked the National Park's Head of Visitor Services, Colin Simpson, how the park's recovering from those fires.
These things take a long time, as you might imagine, and it's a bit early to say, to be honest. I think the recovery will depend on a lot of things, not least the weather and conditions and so on in the coming months. But to us, the key thing is, even though that fire wasn't directly in the park, it just demonstrates the risk that there is from these things.
And what kind of measures have you been taking during this warmer, hotter summer, drier summer that we've been having then to try to mitigate the risk, just to try to make sure that there are fewer fires?
So there's a number of measures. There's a lot of work that we do with our landowners, landowner partners and so on to try and mitigate the risk, help them to prepare for things. On my side of the business, the key thing is our ranger service and the work we do with partner rangers, because we're trying to minimise the risk that there might come from any visitors coming to the area. We definitely want to welcome visitors, especially when the weather's as good as it is just now, but we have our rangers out on patrol. We have joint patrols with Police Scotland as well, and that's just to get the message across that whilst you're here enjoying yourself, you don't need to have a fire, you shouldn't be having a barbecue as part of that. Let's just keep the risk as low as we can.
And with so many of these fires having a human cause behind them, do you think messages are beginning to get through to people that they really need to take more care?
I think they genuinely are, yes. I think that's one of the things that's been really encouraging. There's always a few people who maybe haven't heard, but generally speaking, we think that message is getting through. And I think one of the really good things about it is that people really do value the quality of the area that they're coming to visit. So it is quite an easy message to get across to people that just a few simple measures will really help protect it.
And in terms of monitoring and then tackling these fires when they do spring up, again, are you getting better at that?
I think so, yes. As you might imagine, it's a huge partnership approach. The recent fires that we had some involvement, but there were many, many others involved. So it's a huge concerted effort by all those in the area when these things do crop up.
OK, Colin, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Good to have you on tonight. There we go, some cautious optimism from Colin Simpson at the Cairngorms National Park. Well, it has certainly been a day today to be outdoors, national parks, beaches. It's all happening today, really warm.
Yes, Laura, it's been the warmest August day in Scotland since 2003, but the heat has been triggering some thundery showers, a few more of those to come. We've been spoilt for choice from our weather watchers today, most of them telling the same story with plenty of blue skies and sunshine from Nairn all the way down to the borders. But over Perthshire, dark clouds looming. We've had some heavy showers around, bringing thunder in places, and that risk of thundery showers continues. We did have a hot spot today. It was Charter Hall in the Borders, just shy of 32 Celsius, but quite widely we've had temperatures in the high 20s. That heat has been widespread. Not the case for the thundery showers. They've been few and far between, but where you have caught them, they've been really heavy, and that risk is ongoing. So still a yellow warning from the Met Office for thunderstorms, valid across most of Scotland through tonight and through tomorrow as well. By tomorrow morning, some showers from the word go, as you can see. A very mild and muggy night and a mild start with temperatures already in the mid-teens by 8 o'clock. We'll have some har affecting northeastern coasts as well as the Northern Isles, and cloud with a scattering of showers affecting the Western Isles too. Now, through tomorrow, we'll see that ongoing risk of thundery showers. Not all parts catching one by any means. They'll be most frequent in the north and east. But if you do see one, it could be heavy, bringing a risk of localised flooding, large hail, gusty winds. Not quite as warm as today, but we could still see 26 Celsius in some eastern spots, low 20s in the west, and a cooler feel for the northern and western Isles, where some mist and low cloud may stick around. Now, heading into Friday, high pressure moving in, but you can see we have a weak cold front in play to the north of us. That's going to bring quite a lot of cloud to start the day on Friday. Some bits and pieces of patchy rain for the western and northern Isles, as well as the northwest Highlands. That will tend to fade as the day goes on. Cloud thinning and breaking to allow some bright and sunny spells. Best of the sunshine across central and southern Scotland. There'll be a scattering of showers, but not as heavy as those we've seen today and those we'll see tomorrow. Warmest in the south, and that's because a bit of a northwesterly breeze picks up, pegging temperatures back in the far north and northwest. High pressure sticking with us for the weekend. For Saturday, we'll start with quite a lot of cloud, low cloud in places. It will break up, especially in the west. Again, that's where we'll see the highest temperatures, a wee bit cooler for eastern Scotland. And then for Sunday, cloud breaking up more readily, lots of sunshine, and it's warming up again. Laura.
Gillian, we'll be keeping an eye on those thunderstorms, won't we? But thank you for now. And thank you for your company tonight. Sarah McMullen will be back here again tomorrow night at 7, and there's more on all of our stories on the BBC News Scotland website from all of us, though. Bye for now.